I'm Rebecca, a 42-year-old stepmother. I never imagined I'd be in this predicament. My husband, Mark, is a prosperous businessman, constantly on his phone or engrossed in work. While I value his hard work, it often makes me feel ignored and lonely. As time went on, I yearned for connection and closeness, missing the affection that had gradually disappeared from our marriage. I frequently pondered how to reignite the passion in my life. The nights were particularly solitary, listening to Mark's footsteps, resonating through the house as he went to his office, leaving me in the quiet of our formerly lively home. I missed the thrill of romance, the comfort of a loving hug, and the excitement of being wanted. My mind drifted to my stepson, Jake, a good-looking, 24-year-old who had recently returned home after graduating from college. Jake has always been courteous and respectful, but there was an undeniable attraction between us. He had matured into an attractive young man, and I found myself looking at him, my heart beating faster every time our eyes connected. I knew it was inappropriate, but the more I tried to suppress these feelings, the more intense they grew. One afternoon, I decided to get changed after a long day of waiting for Mark to return. I was just about to slip into a silk robe when I saw my reflection in the mirror. I sighed, wishing for the days when I felt desirable and attractive. I went to the bedroom, where I could get lost in my thoughts. I undid my bra and was about to put on the robe when I suddenly heard the door creak open. It was Jake, coming home. Suddenly, Jake greeted Rebecca informally with a cheerful grin as he walked in. Rebecca's heart pounded. She hurriedly grabbed her dressing gown for coverage, but Jake had already seen her. He stuttered an apology for the intrusion, his eyes lingering on her for a little too long. Rebecca responded that it was okay, pretending to be composed, explaining she was getting dressed. She felt herself blushing. An uncomfortable quiet filled the room, heavy with unspoken feelings. A change in their dynamic was obvious, a palpable energy between them. Jake fidgeted, looking at Rebecca repeatedly, as if thinking about something. He started to excuse himself and head for the door, but Rebecca softly asked him to stay and chat. He paused, his eyes questioning hers. The unspoken desire between them was almost tangible, and Rebecca felt she needed to be brave. She confessed to feeling lonely with Mark's absence and admitted they hadn't truly connected. Jake understood, mentioning how strange it had been with Mark constantly occupied. Rebecca bravely suggested they spend some time together, just the two of them. To her relief, Jake smiled and agreed, as if pulled together by an unseen power. They moved closer, the distance between them vanishing until they were mere inches apart. Rebecca could feel the heat from his body, their mutual attraction undeniable. She began to confess her honesty, saying, "Jake, I want to be honest. I've been thinking about you much more than I ought to," I admitted, gazing into his eyes. He shared the same sentiment, moving closer, his voice trembling with nervous anticipation. Suddenly, my worries vanished, and I kissed him. The kiss started gently, but quickly grew more intense, awakening a passion I hadn't experienced for a long time. He put his hands on my waist, drawing me near as we lost ourselves in the moment. Breathless and thrilled, I pulled away. "This is so wrong," I whispered, my heart pounding. "Perhaps," he responded, his voice thick with longing, "but it feels so perfect." Before I could consider the repercussions, I kissed him again, running my fingers through his hair. The kiss became even more fervent, his hands wandering over my back as I pressed myself against him. His body radiated heat, and every touch sent shivers down my spine. When we parted, I saw the same blend of excitement and apprehension in his eyes. "Are we truly doing this?" I breathed. "Yes," he said, resolutely, taking my hands and placing them on his chest. "I desire this, Rebecca. I've desired you for a very long time." His words gave me courage. I stepped back, took his hand, and led him towards the bed. The situation felt unreal, and yet I was willing to embrace it. As we settled on the edge of the bed, I leaned in, and our lips met again with greater urgency. This time, Jake's hands explored my body, tracing every curve as I surrendered to his touch. The passion between us intensified, rekindling a fire I hadn't felt for years. My fingers trailed across his skin. His strong jaw and eager gaze told me he wanted more. "Let's go for it," I said, surprised by my own daring. He nodded and kissed me deeply. His body pressed close, warm and wanting. My hands moved over his firm chest, feeling the muscles under his shirt. I wanted more, and the thought excited me. Slowly, I pushed him onto the bed and sat on top of him, kissing him passionately. He looked up, surprised and thrilled. I felt his heart beat fast, just like mine. "I didn't see this coming," he whispered, his hands holding my hips. "Me neither," I answered softly, my voice husky. "But this feels too good to stop." We kept kissing, our bodies moving together. I slid my hands under his shirt, feeling his stomach muscles and warm skin. He groaned, and the sound sent chills down my back. "Rebecca, you're amazing," he whispered, pulling me closer with his hands on my back as I moved against him. His look, full of desire, made me feel confident. "I want to feel you," I murmured, my voice filled with desire. "Then let's not wait," he said, pulling at the edge of my robe. I gasped as he revealed my body. His gaze made me excited. "You're gorgeous," he whispered, kissing my neck, setting me on fire. I felt the heat growing and let myself enjoy the moment. His touch sent shivers through me as he kissed my neck, making pleasure flow through my body. I moaned softly, pressing against him as he continued kissing me. I wanted him closer, feeling bolder than before. Jake moved us, so I was under him on the bed. His eyes shone with playful excitement and desire as he kissed me deeply. I felt his weight on me, and every second felt thrilling. I touched his penis and was surprised by how large it was, so much so that I couldn't hold it to taste it. He groaned, and my desire intensified. We became lost in the moment, forgetting everything else as we explored our passion. The room was filled with quiet murmurs and the sounds of our lovemaking. Each touch and kiss felt even more amazing than the one before. As we held each other close, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't known in a long time. I wanted to explore every part of him, to completely surrender to the moment. We moved together perfectly, creating a burning passion that took over both of us. When our intense feelings calmed down, we held each other, catching our breath, looking into Jake's eyes. I felt incredibly happy and excited, feelings I hadn't had in so long. But as I started to relax, the doorbell rang, shattering the peaceful moment. "What's that?" I asked, my heart pounding as I suddenly remembered where I was. "It's probably your husband," Jake said, his eyes filled with fear. "Mark wasn't expected home for hours," exclaimed, scrambling to fix my robe quick. "We have to hide, Jake," said, glancing toward the door. We jumped up frantically, trying to put ourselves back together, just as we managed to get somewhat presentable. I heard Mark's voice coming from the hallway. "Rebecca, are you home?" he called out, sounding cheerful. "Oh, yeah, I'm in the bedroom," I called out. My heart racing, I glanced at Jake, who looked just as flustered as I felt. "Stay quiet," I whispered urgently, and Jake nodded quickly, slipping into the closet just as Mark walked through the door. Mark entered, a smile on his face as he caught sight of me. "I didn't think you'd be home. How was your day?" he asked, stepping closer. "Just the usual," I said, forcing a smile and trying to act as normal as possible. "How was yours?" "Busy as always," he replied with a sigh, "but I thought I'd take a break and spend some time with you." "I know," nodded, feeling a mix of guilt and excitement. I could still feel Jake's presence lingering in the air, his warmth and the thrill of our shared moments. I had to push those thoughts aside as I tried to engage with Mark, who seemed oblivious to the tension hanging between us. As the evening progressed, Mark and I settled onto the couch, sharing casual conversation, but my mind kept wandering back to Jake and the electric connection we had just shared. My heart raced every time I thought about it, igniting a fire within me that I couldn't ignore. A few days later, while Mark was out for another late-night meeting, I found myself alone at home again, my thoughts consumed with the memory of our last encounter. I had missed the thrill of being wanted, of feeling alive. I decided to take a long, relaxing bath to ease the tension, hoping it would help calm my racing thoughts. I lit a few candles and filled the tub with warm water, letting the steam envelop me as I soaked. I found my mind drifting back to Jake, the way his hands explored my body, the passion in his intoxicating. I felt a rush of heat at the memory and knew I needed to see him again. Just then, I heard the soft sound of a knock at the door. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly wrapped a towel around myself before opening them, revealing Jake standing there, a mischievous grin on his face. "Hey," he said, his eyes sparkling. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "Not at all," I replied, my heart racing at his unexpected arrival. "Come in," as he stepped into the bathroom. I felt a rush of excitement at having him so close again. I was just taking a bath, I said shyly, trying to hide my nerves. "Looks inviting," he said, his gaze lingering on me as I leaned against the doorframe. "Mind if I join you?" I hesitated for just a moment, my heart racing at the thought of being so close to him again, but the thrill was too strong to resist. Sure, why not? In an instant, Jake stepped into the bathroom, closing the door behind him. The atmosphere felt charged with anticipation as I watched him slowly undress, my breath hitching as he revealed his toned body, every part of me ached to touch him, to explore the heat that radiated from him as he slipped into the tub beside me. The warm water surrounded us, creating a bubble of intimacy. We exchanged nervous glances before our lips collided in a heated kiss, the water splashing around us as I melted into him. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer as I tangled my fingers in his hair. The kisses quickly deepened, filled with hunger and desire. As we lost ourselves in the moment, I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, igniting a fire that spread through me. "You're even more beautiful than I remember," whispered against my lips, his breath warm against my skin. That I smiled, feeling flattered. "And you're more irresistible. Every time I see you with a newfound confidence. I pushed him back against the tub, straddling him as I pressed my body against his. The water soused around us, but I was lost in the sensation of his skin against mine. My fingers traced down his chest, relishing the feel of his muscles under my touch. "Rebecca," he breathed, his voice filled with longing. "You have no idea how much I've wanted this." "Show me," I replied, my voice sultry as I leaned in for another kiss. This time, more fervent, the world outside faded away as we explored each other, the water mingling with our desires. As our kisses became more urgent, I could feel his hands roaming my body, tracing every curve as I lost myself in his touch. The thrill of being so close to him sent shivers down my spine, igniting every nerve ending. I leaned back slightly, allowing him to kiss down my neck, savoring the sensation of his lips against my skin. "God, Jake," I gasped, my body arching toward him, craving more with a low growl of desire. He seized my face, his thumbs brushing over my cheeks. As he pulled me in for another searing kiss, I could feel the heat building between us. A powerful force that drew us closer together, urging us to explore more. The water around us became a blur as we tangled together, lost in the heat of the moment. My hands explored his body, tracing over his shoulders and down his arms as he deepened our kiss, each movement igniting the passion between us. Suddenly, I felt a rush of boldness and pulled away slightly, looking into his eyes. "Let's take this further," I whispered, my heart racing at the thought. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice thick with desire. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied, my heart racing with anticipation. With that, we moved together, the warm water surrounding us. As we embraced the heat of our desires, we pressed against each other, our bodies entwined in the moment. As the passion escalated, our breaths mingling as we lost ourselves in the pleasure of being together. Hours seemed to melt away as we surrendered to our desires, exploring every inch of each other, feeling the warmth of our connection grow. It was a whirlwind of kisses, soft whispers, and tender caress, leaving us both breathless. Eventually, as the water cooled around us, we pulled apart, slightly gazing into each other's eyes, feeling the connection that had blossomed between us. I felt exhilarated, alive in a way I hadn't experienced in years. But just as we began to relax, the sound of the front door echoed through the house, and we exchanged worried glances. "Mark's home," I exclaimed, panic rising within me. "Quick, we have to get out of here," Jake said, scrambling out of the tub. We both hurriedly dried off and threw on our clothes. The tension palpable as we tried to make ourselves presentable. Just as I finished adjusting my hair, I heard Mark's voice call out again. "Rebecca, I'm back," he shouted. "We need to hide," Jake said urgently, glancing toward the door. I nodded, and we both ducked into the closet, our hearts racing as we heard Mark enter the bathroom. The two of us stood close together in the darkness, our breaths mingling as we waited for the tension to dissipate. Mark began to wash his hands at the sink, oblivious to the chaos that had just unfolded in his home. "How was your day, Rebecca?" he asked, his tone casual. "Just relaxing," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest as I exchanged a nervous glance with Jake. After a few tense moments, Mark finished and left the bathroom, allowing us to breathe a sigh of relief. "Wow, that was close," Jake whispered, his eyes wide with excitement. "I know, I can't believe we just—" I began, but before I could finish, he leaned in and kissed me softly, reminding me of the thrill we had just shared. "We can't stop now," he said, his voice low with urgency. "This is just the beginning." I felt my heart racing again, caught between the thrill of our secret and the reality of my life with Mark. But deep down, I knew that whatever was happening between Jake and me was something I couldn't resist. I was ready to embrace this new chapter, wherever it might lead us. As we stepped out of the closet, the tension hung in the air, electric with possibility. We both knew that our lives would never be the same again. The thrill of the forbidden lingered, and I was ready to dive deeper into this unexpected romance. No matter